Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. 6 months had passed since they left Earth on humanity's first deep space mission. The ship was small compared to the science fiction movies, but it was real, and it was theirs. "Commander, we're approaching the Kepler 442 system," said Lisa Martinez from the pilot's seat. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced skill. "All systems are running smooth." Jake nodded and walked to the navigation station. "Good work, Lisa. Ryan, how are the engines holding up?" Chief Engineer Ryan O'Connor looked up from his console. "Everything's perfect, sir. The new fusion drive is working better than we hoped. We could probably push harder if we needed to." Dr. Kate Sullivan, their xenobiologist, was studying readings from her science station. "I'm picking up some interesting signals from the fourth planet. Could be natural, but there's a pattern to them." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was what they had come for. The chance to find other life in the universe. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it now," Kate said. "It's definitely artificial. Someone's broadcasting from that planet." The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Every person on board knew they might be about to make the most important discovery in human history. "Sir," Lisa called out, her voice tight with worry. "I'm detecting multiple large objects moving toward us. They're big, sir. Really big." Jake moved to her station and looked at the scanner display. His blood went cold. 3 massive ships were approaching. Their position. Each one was at least 10 times the size of the Horizon. "Red alert," Jake ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Ryan, give me everything the engines have got." The ship's lights dimmed as the engines powered up to maximum. But Jake knew it wouldn't be enough. The alien ships were already moving to surround them. "They're hailing us," Kate reported. "The signal is coming through clear. They're using our own communication protocols somehow." "Put it through," Jake said. The main screen flickered and showed the face of something that definitely wasn't human. The creature had gray skin covered in scales with 4 eyes arranged around a mouth full of sharp teeth. It wore what looked like military armor decorated with symbols Jake didn't recognize. "Primitive vessel," the alien said in perfect English. "I am War Commander HFY Kronos of the Zephyrian Empire. You have entered our territory without permission. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Jake stepped forward. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel USS Horizon. We come in peace. We're explorers, not invaders. We didn't know this was your territory." HFY made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace? Your species does not understand the meaning of the word. All inferior races say they come in peace before they reveal their true nature. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 47 worlds. We know how this works." "You're wrong," Jake said firmly. "Humans aren't like that. We want to learn, to trade, to be friends. We have no weapons capable of threatening your ships." "Lies," HFY snarled. "Your ship carries energy weapons. Our scanners detect them." Jake's heart sank. The Horizon did have defensive weapons, though they were nothing compared to what these aliens probably had. "Those are for protection against asteroids and space debris. We never intended to fight anyone." "More lies. Prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be taken prisoner. Your ship will be studied. If you resist, you will die." The communication ended. Jake turned to his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. He could see the fear in their eyes, but also determination. "Options?" he asked. "We could run," Lisa said. "But they're faster than us. We might buy a few minutes." "The weapons?" Jake asked Ryan. "Plasma cannons and missile tubes. Nothing that would scratch their armor. They could destroy us without even slowing down." Kate was still working at her station. "I'm analyzing their ship designs. They're built for war, Commander. Everything about them is designed to destroy and conquer." Jake thought fast. His crew was depending on him. Earth was depending on him. If they died here, humanity would never know what happened to them. But if they were captured, maybe they could learn something useful. "We're not surrendering without trying diplomacy," Jake decided. "Open a channel." The alien commander appeared on screen again. "Have you decided to surrender?" "I want to talk," Jake said. Let me explain about humans. We're not your enemies. We don't want your territory or your resources. We just want to explore and learn. Vexhi's 4 eyes narrowed. You still think words will save you. This is why your species is weak. You talk when you should fight or submit. The Zephyrian way is simple. The strong rule. The weak serve or die. That's not the only way, Jake argued. There's cooperation, mutual benefit, friendship between species. Friendship? Vexhi spat. Show me this friendship when your ship is burning. The screen went dark. Seconds later, energy beams struck the horizon. The ship shook violently as the shields failed instantly. More beams hit the engines and weapon systems, disabling them completely. Hull breach on deck 3, Ryan reported. Life support is failing. We've got maybe 10 minutes of air left. Jake grabbed the intercom. All hands prepare for boarding. Do not resist. I repeat, do not resist. We're going to survive this. The bridge shook again as something attached to the hull. Jake heard cutting sounds as the aliens burned through the airlock. Stay calm, he told his crew. We'll get through this. Earth needs to know what's out here. The airlock doors exploded inward. Armed figures in heavy armor poured onto the bridge. They were bigger than the commander, built like warriors. They moved with deadly precision, weapons trained on every human. One of them spoke into a communicator. Bridge secured. Prisoners are alive and uninjured. Jake looked at his crew one last time before the aliens forced them to their knees. This wasn't how he had imagined first contact would go, but it wasn't over yet. Humans had survived worse than this before. They would find a way to survive this too. Jake woke up on a cold metal floor. His head hurt and his mouth tasted like blood. The air smelled wrong, like burning metal and something rotten. He tried to sit up and felt heavy chains around his wrists and ankles. Commander, Lisa whispered, from somewhere nearby. Are you okay? Jake looked around. They were in a large cage made of thick metal bars. The walls were dark stone covered with strange symbols. Through the bars, he could see other cages stretching out in long rows. Each cage held different kinds of creatures he had never seen before. Where are we? Ryan asked. He was sitting against the back wall, his engineering uniform torn and dirty. Kate was near the front of the cage studying their surroundings. Some kind of prison. Look at all these different species. I count at least 12 different types of aliens in the cages I can see. A loud sound echoed through the prison. Heavy footsteps were coming their way. Jake stood up as best he could with the chains and moved to the front of the cage. A massive Zephyrian walked up to their cage. This one was even bigger than the soldiers who had captured them. His gray skin had deep scars and he wore black armor, with red symbols. Behind him walked 2 smaller guards carrying energy weapons. So these are the humans, the big Zephyrian said. His voice was deep and rough. I am Warden Thakmor. This is Zerion Prime, your new home. You will work in the crystal mines until you die. That is your only future now. Jake stepped closer to the bars. We have rights. We're prisoners of war. There are rules about how prisoners should be treated. Thakmor laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. Rights? Rules? The only rule here is that I decide who lives and who dies. You are nothing but animals now. You work or you starve. What about the other prisoners? Kate asked. How long have they been here? The warden looked at the other cages. Some have been here for many years. The blue ones with 6 arms came from a world we conquered 8 years ago. The flying creatures were captured 5 years ago. They all learned the same lesson you will learn. Resistance is useless. One of the guards said something in the Zephyrian language. Thakmor nodded and turned back to the humans. You start work tomorrow. The mines are deep and dangerous. Many prisoners die there. If you try to escape, we will hunt you down and make you watch while we execute your friends. If you fight the guards, we will throw you in the punishment cells where you will wish for death. Thakmor walked away, leaving the humans alone in their cage. Jake sat down next to his crew and spoke quietly. Everyone stay strong, this isn't over. We need to learn everything we can about this place. What's to learn? Ryan said bitterly. We're trapped on an alien planet with no way home. Our ship is probably scrap metal by now. No, Jake said firmly. Humans don't give up. We've survived worse than this before. We just need time to figure out a plan. Kate was still watching the other prisoners. Commander, I think some of them are trying to communicate with us. In the cage across from them, a tall blue creature with 6 arms was making hand signals. Its eyes were large and sad, but it seemed intelligent. In another cage, small furry creatures were huddled together, watching the humans with interest. Candior, you understand any of it? Jake asked Kate. I'm trying. The blue one seems to be warning us about something. The hand signals. I think it's trying to say the guards are coming back. Sure enough, more Zephyrian guards appeared. They opened several cages and forced groups of prisoners out with electric prods. The prisoners moved slowly like they were exhausted or sick. Work detail, one guard shouted. Move faster or get the prod. Jake watched as the different alien species were herded toward a large opening in the wall. None of them fought back, or even complained. They just walked like they had given up all hope. Look at them, Lisa whispered. They're broken. They've been here so long they don't even remember what freedom looks like. That night, after the work crews returned, Jake started talking to the other prisoners. It was difficult at first. Most species had different ways of communicating, but Kate was good with languages, and slowly they began to understand each other. The blue 6-armed alien was named something that sounded like Veltar. His people were called the Luminari, and they had been peaceful traders before the Zephyrians conquered their world. The small furry creatures were the Kethvar, and they had been fighters before their capture. How many different species are imprisoned here? Jake asked Veltar through a combination of words and hand signals. Many, Veltar replied sadly. From many worlds, all conquered by the Zephyrians, all brought here to work until death. Has anyone ever escaped? Veltar's large eyes went wide with fear. No escape. Impossible. Many have tried. All died terrible deaths. The warden makes sure everyone sees what happens to those who try. But Jake wasn't discouraged. That night, he talked quietly with his crew about what they had observed. The guards are confident, he said. Too confident. They don't expect any real resistance. That could be their weakness. What are you thinking? Lisa asked. I'm thinking that no one has ever tried a human approach to escaping. These aliens have all given up because they think like individuals, but humans work as teams. Kate had been listening to conversations from other cages. I've been learning. Their languages. The Luminari are engineers. The Kethvar know about weapons. There are others who know about the planet's geography, so we have the skills we need, Ryan said slowly. We just need to organize them. Over the next few days, Jake began building relationships with the other prisoners. He shared food with them when the guards weren't watching. He helped injured prisoners when he could. He treated them with respect and kindness, something they hadn't experienced in years. The other prisoners began to notice. The humans didn't act like broken slaves. They acted like they still believed they could win. And slowly, that belief began to spread. Veltar was the first to ask the question that would change everything. Human Jake, he said one evening. You speak of escape. But even if we could leave the prison, where would we go? This whole planet belongs to the Zephyrians. Jake smiled for the first time since their capture. Then we'll have to take the planet away from them. The words spread through the prison like fire. For the first time in years, the prisoners began to hope. 3 months had passed since Jake and his crew arrived at Zerion Prime. The work in the crystal mines was brutal. Every day, prisoners were forced deep underground to dig out glowing crystals that powered Zephyrian ships and weapons. The tunnels were hot, dangerous, and filled with poisonous gases. But something was changing in the prison. Jake had been busy during those 3 months. He talked to every prisoner he could reach. He learned their names, their stories, and their skills. Most importantly, he gave them something they had lost years ago: hope. The plan is simple, Jake whispered to a group of prisoners gathered in the deepest part of the mines where the guards rarely went. We hit them from 3 directions at once. Lisa's team takes the communication center. Ryan leads the assault. On the armory. I'll handle the main gate with Veltar and his people. Veltar, the blue luminary engineer, nodded, his 6 arms working nervously. The communication center has 12 guards. How do we get past them? We don't fight them head on, Jake explained. We use the ventilation system you mapped out. Lisa's small enough to crawl through the air ducts. Once she's inside, she can open the doors for the rest of her team. A small Kethvar named Zikta spoke up. What about weapons? The guards have energy rifles. We have nothing but mining tools. Ryan grinned and pulled out several devices he had been working on. I've been busy too. These crystals we mine every day? They're pure energy. I figured out how to make them explode. We've got bombs now. Kate had been working on another part of the plan. I've been monitoring their communication patterns. Every night at exactly midnight, they send a status report to their fleet command. If we take the communication center at that time, we can send false reports. Buy ourselves time before they realize what's happening. The group of prisoners had grown from Jake's original crew to nearly 50 aliens from a dozen different species. Each one had a job. Each one knew exactly what to do. What about after we take the prison? Asked a tall insectoid prisoner with 4 arms. The Zephyrians will send warships to crush us. Jake's eyes were hard as steel. Then we'll be ready for them. This prison sits on top of the largest crystal mine in Zephyrian space. Those crystals power their entire war machine. If we control the mine, we control their power source. The night of the escape came exactly 1 week later. Jake had chosen the date carefully. It was during the new moon when the planet would be darkest. Most of the guards would be tired from the day shift. At exactly 11:45 p.m., Lisa crawled into the ventilation shaft that led to the communication center. She was small and quick, perfect for the job. Behind her crawled 3 Kethvar prisoners who could move silently through tight spaces. Ryan was already in position near the armory with Veltar and 8 other prisoners. They carried mining tools and Ryan's homemade crystal bombs. The armory held all the weapons taken from conquered worlds over the years. Jake waited near the main gate with the largest group of prisoners. They would have the hardest job, fighting through the main guard posts to reach the outside. At exactly midnight, everything went wrong and right at the same time. Lisa reached the communication center just as the guards were preparing to send their nightly report. Instead of waiting for her team, she made a split-second decision. She dropped down from the ceiling vent right behind the guard operating the communication system. The guard spun around in shock. He had never seen a prisoner in the communication center before. Lisa grabbed a heavy tool from her belt and hit him hard across the head. He dropped to the floor unconscious. The other guards in the room started to react, but the Kethvar prisoners were already dropping from other vents around the room. The small furry aliens might have looked harmless, but they moved like lightning and fought with the fury of creatures who had been caged too long. In the armory, Ryan's crystal bombs worked even better than he had hoped. The first explosion blew a hole in the armory wall big enough for 3 people to walk through. The second explosion destroyed the guard post next to it. Veltar and his team rushed through the hole and began grabbing weapons. Energy rifles, plasma cannons, and armor that had been taken from dozens of conquered worlds. For the first time in years, the prisoners were armed. Jake heard the explosions and knew it was time. He led his group in a direct assault on the main. The guards were confused and scattered. They had never faced an organized attack before. Prisoners were supposed to be broken and hopeless, not running toward them with weapons and battle cries. "For freedom!" Jake shouted as he charged the first guard post. Behind him, aliens from a dozen worlds echoed the cry in their own languages. The first wave of guards fell quickly. They were used to dealing with individual prisoners trying to escape, not a coordinated military assault. But Jake knew more guards would come soon. "Jikta, take your people and secure the vehicle bay," he ordered. "We need those transport ships. Veltar, get your engineers to the power station. Cut power to the guard towers. Everyone else, hold this position. Don't let any guards get to the communication center." The battle raged for 2 hours. More guards came from deeper in the prison complex, but the prisoners were ready for them. They used tactics the Zephyrians had never seen before. They worked together instead of fighting as individuals. They used the prison's own layout against the guards. By dawn, the impossible had happened. The prisoners controlled Zarian Prime. Jake stood in the prison's command center, looking at screens that showed the entire facility. Hundreds of prisoners were celebrating their freedom. Some were crying, others were dancing. Many just stood in the sunlight they hadn't seen in years. "Commander," Kate called from the communication station. "I'm intercepting Zephyrian military transmissions. They're sending a battle fleet to retake the prison. 3 days, maybe 4 before they arrive." Jake nodded. He had expected this. "How big a fleet?" "At least 20 warships, including the personal command ship of someone called Commander Zakthul." Veltar looked worried. "Zakthul is the Empire's greatest warrior. He has never lost a battle. If he is coming here, they mean to make an example of us." Jake smiled grimly. "Good, let him come. It's time the galaxy learned what happens when you cage humans." He turned to address all the freed prisoners. "We've won the first battle, but the war isn't over. In 3 days, the Zephyrians will come to take back this prison. We have a choice. We can run and hide, or we can stand and fight. If we fight, some of us will die. But if we run, all of us will eventually be recaptured or killed." An old prisoner from a species Jake didn't recognize stepped forward. "Human Jake, my people have been slaves for 15 years. I would rather die fighting than live in chains again." One by one, every prisoner in the room agreed. They would fight. Jake looked out at the faces surrounding him. These weren't broken slaves anymore. They were warriors who had remembered what they were fighting for. "Then let's give Commander Zakthul a welcome he'll never forget." Commander Zakthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the destroyer of worlds, watching Zarian Prime grow larger on the screen. He was the Zephyrian Empire's greatest warrior, the terror of 40 systems. His black armor was covered with the symbols of his victories. His 4 eyes burned with cold fury. "Report," he ordered his second in command. 20 warships in attack formation, sir. All weapons charged and ready. The rebels have control of the prison and the crystal mines, but they are trapped on the planet's surface." Zakthul studied the tactical display. "How many prisoners escaped?" "Nearly 3,000 from various species. But sir, intelligence reports say they are being led by humans." Zakthul's eyes narrowed. "Humans? The new species that surrendered without a fight?" "Yes, sir. But something has changed. They destroyed the prison defenses and killed over 200 guards. They fight like warriors now." "Impossible," Zakthul snarled. "Humans are weak creatures who talk about peace. Send the landing force. Crush them quickly." But as the first wave of Zephyrian troops landed on the planet, they found something they had never encountered before. The rebels were not hiding in caves or running to the hills. They were fighting back with captured weapons and tactics that seemed to come from nowhere. Jake watched the battle from the prison's command center. He had spent 3 days preparing for this moment. The freed prisoners had worked day and night to turn the prison into a fortress. They had set traps, built barriers, and created weapons from mining equipment. "First wave is landing in Sector 7, Kate reported from the communication station. 200 troops with heavy weapons. Jikta, take your people and hit them. From the East Canyon. Use the crystal bombs to block their retreat. Veltar, your team moves in from the west after the explosion." Jake had learned something important about Zephyrian tactics during his months in prison. They always attacked straight ahead with overwhelming force. They never expected enemies to use the ground itself as a weapon. The first Zephyrian landing, Force walked right into Jake's trap. As they advanced toward the prison, explosions erupted from the canyon walls above them. Tons of rock came down, crushing their vehicles and scattering their formation. Before they could recover, prisoners attacked from 3 directions at once. The Kethvar used their speed to strike and disappear. The Luminari used their engineering skills to turn captured vehicles against their former owners. Other species fought with fury that surprised even themselves. "Impossible," Zakthul said, as he watched the reports come in. "My troops are being defeated by escaped slaves." "Sir, The humans seem to be coordinating all the different species. They fight as one army instead of individual groups. Zakthul felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. Send the second wave. All troops this time. I want that prison retaken. But the second wave fared no better. Jake had anticipated this move too. As more Zephyrian troops landed, they found the rebels had captured their own weapons and were using them with deadly skill. Ryan had figured out how to operate Zephyrian plasma cannons. Lisa had learned to pilot their aircraft. Kate was intercepting their communications and feeding false information to their commanders. They know what we're going to do before we do it, reported a Zephyrian captain. It's like they can read our minds. The truth was simpler, but more frightening. Jake had studied Zephyrian military doctrine during his time in prison. He understood their strengths and weaknesses better than they understood themselves. After losing 2 full landing forces, Zakthul made a decision that shocked his officers. Prepare my personal shuttle, I'm going down there myself. Sir, that's too dangerous. The humans have proven they can defeat our regular troops. That's exactly why I must go, Zakthul said grimly. If these humans are as dangerous as they seem, I need to face them myself. No warrior can be allowed to challenge Zephyrian superiority. Zakthul landed with his personal guard, 12 of the Empire's most elite warriors. They were the strongest, fastest, and most skilled fighters in Zephyrian space. Each one had killed hundreds of enemies in personal combat. Jake was waiting for them in the prison courtyard. He had known this moment would come. The Zephyrian commander would eventually have to face him directly. So you are the human who thinks he can defy the Empire, Zakthul said as he approached. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with armor that could stop plasma bolts. I'm just a man who refuses to kneel, Jake replied calmly. Zakthul laughed. Your species is weak. You surrender at the first sign of resistance. You talk about peace when you should be fighting. How do you expect to defeat me? By being human, Jake said simply. The battle that followed was like nothing anyone had ever seen. Zakthul was faster and stronger than any human could be. His weapons were more advanced. His armor was nearly impenetrable. But Jake had something the alien warrior didn't understand. Jake didn't fight like a Zephyrian. He didn't charge straight ahead seeking glory. Instead, he used the environment around him. He turned the courtyard itself into a weapon. When Zakthul's guard attacked, Jake was ready. He had studied each warrior's movements and found their weaknesses. One by one, the elite guards fell to traps they never saw coming. Explosions erupted from hidden charges Ryan had placed days earlier. Sniper fire came from positions Lisa had carefully chosen. The Zephyrian warriors found themselves fighting not just Jake, but the entire prison complex itself. Zakthul watched in horror as his unbeatable guards were defeated by tactics they couldn't counter. These weren't the random attacks of desperate prisoners. This was military genius of a type he had never encountered. Finally, only Zakthul remained. He stood alone in the courtyard, wounded and surrounded by the bodies of his warriors. Jake approached him slowly, carrying a simple plasma rifle. This is impossible, Zakthul gasped. I am the greatest warrior in the Empire. I have conquered worlds. I have never been defeated. You never fought humans before, Jake said quietly. For the first time in his life, Zakthul felt real fear. This human had done something no enemy had ever managed. He had beaten the unbeatable. As Jake raised his weapon, Zakthul's legs gave out. The proud warrior who had never shown weakness to anyone fell to his knees in the dust. Spare me, human, he said, his voice breaking. I'll be whatever you want. The words echoed across the courtyard. Every prisoner, every rebel, every surviving Zephyrian heard them. The Empire's greatest warrior was begging for mercy from a human. Jake looked down at the broken alien warrior. In that moment, he had a choice that would change the galaxy forever. Jake looked down at Zakthul kneeling in the dust. The mighty Zephyrian warrior was bleeding from several wounds. His black armor was cracked and scorched. His 4 eyes looked up at Jake with something the human had never expected to see. Respect, mixed with fear. Around the courtyard, hundreds of freed prisoners watched in silence. They had seen their captors beaten before, but never like this. Never had a Zephyrian warrior begged for mercy. "Get up," Jake said quietly. Zakthul looked confused. "What?" I said, "Get up. No one needs to kneel to me." Slowly, the alien warrior stood. He was still taller than Jake, but something had changed. The arrogance was gone from his posture. "You could have killed me," Zakthul said. "Why didn't you?" Jake lowered his weapon. "Because killing you won't solve anything. The Empire will just send another commander, then another. This cycle will never end unless we change the rules." "I don't understand. You defeated me. By all laws of war, you should execute me as an example to others." "That's the Zephyrian way," Jake replied. "It's not the human way. We believe in something your people have forgotten, which is redemption, the chance to become something better than what you were." Zakthul stared at Jake like he was speaking an alien language. "You would trust me? After everything my people have done to yours?" Trust has to start somewhere. And I've learned something about you during this battle. You're not evil. You're just following the only way you've ever known. But there are other ways to live. Kate approached from the communication center. "Commander, we're receiving transmissions from across Zephyrian space. Word of the battle is spreading. Some worlds are declaring independence, others are asking to join our alliance." Jake nodded but kept his eyes on Zakthul. "You hear that? Your defeat here isn't just about one battle. It's about showing the galaxy that the Empire can be beaten, that there's another way to live besides conquer or be conquered. But if I help you," Zakthul said slowly, "I will be branded a traitor. My own people will hunt me. Then you'll understand what every prisoner on this planet has felt for years. The difference is you'll be choosing your side instead of having it chosen for you." Veltar, the Luminary engineer, stepped forward. "Human Jake speaks truth. I was an engineer before the Zephyrians came. I built things that helped my people. Under the Empire, I was forced to build weapons for conquest. Which life had more meaning?" Other freed prisoners began speaking up. Each one told their story of life before the Empire and life under it. Zakthul listened with growing amazement. These weren't the broken slaves he had expected to find. They were people with dreams, families, and hopes for the future. "I have a choice to make," Zakthul said finally. "But first you should know what you're truly facing. The Emperor will not accept this defeat. He will send the entire Imperial fleet to destroy this planet and everyone on it." "How long do we have?" Jake asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. And when they come, they won't try to retake the prison. They'll just blast the planet from space until nothing lives. Ryan had been working on captured Zephyrian technology. Actually, that might not be as easy as they think. Those crystals we've been mining, I've figured out how to use them as planetary shields. If we can set up enough generators around the planet, we could stop orbital bombardment. That would take thousands of people working together, Zakthul said. And you'd need Zephyrian technical knowledge to make it work properly. Jake looked directly at the alien commander. "Are you offering to help?" Zakthul was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone present. He removed his command insignia and threw them on the ground. "I have served the Empire for 40 years. I have conquered 17 worlds in the Emperor's name. I thought I was bringing order to chaos. But today I learned that I was bringing chaos to order." He looked around at the freed prisoners. "Yes, human Jake, I will help you." The next 2 weeks were the busiest in the planet's history. Under Zakthul's guidance, the rebels built a planetary defense network, using the crystal mines as power sources. The alien commander's knowledge of Imperial tactics proved invaluable in preparing for the coming attack. But more importantly, word of the alliance between humans and Zephyrians spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Planets that had been under Imperial rule for decades began to rebel. Species that had given up hope started fighting back. "We're receiving communications from 47 different star systems," Kate reported. "They all want to join what they're calling the Free Worlds Alliance." Jake stood in the renovated command center, now flying the flag of the new alliance. Through the windows, he could see humans and aliens working side by side to prepare their defenses. "What do you think?" he asked Zakthul, who was now wearing simple clothes instead of military armor. I think the Emperor made a mistake when he tried to cage humans, the former Zephyrian commander replied. Your species doesn't just survive imprisonment, you turn it into revolution. The Imperial fleet arrived exactly when Zakthul had predicted. 300 warships, the largest force ever assembled. They came expecting to find a broken prison planet ready for destruction. Instead, they found a united world protected by shields they couldn't penetrate and defended by former enemies fighting side by side. The battle lasted 3 days. In the end, the Imperial fleet retreated for the first time in Zephyrian history. The Free Worlds Alliance had won not just a battle, but a new way of life. Jake stood on the bridge of the rebuilt USS Horizon, now the flagship of the Alliance fleet. Beside him stood Zakthul, wearing the insignia of the Alliance's military advisor. Where do we go from here? The former Zephyrian asked. Jake looked out at the stars. We go home. Earth needs to know what we've learned out here. And then we come back with help. There are a lot more people in this galaxy who need to learn that they don't have to kneel to anyone. And if the Empire tries to stop us, Jake smiled, then we'll teach them the same lesson we taught you, that humans work best when they're fighting for something bigger than themselves. As the Horizon led the Alliance fleet toward Earth, Jake thought about how much had changed since their first encounter with the Zephyrians. They had started as prisoners. Now they were liberators. The galaxy would never be the same again.